So hello everyone, we are once again back with a very important chapter, that's determinant. So last time in the matrix also we have talked about it, that determinant is where the 5 mark question always comes. It's a very important chapter. So today we are gonna look into that, and let's start without any further delay. Let's look into determinants. So determinants basically have two components of it. The number one are the properties of determinant, so that's very important. So properties of determinant means we have certain properties that uh, what will happen when you interchange rows, interchange columns, or in fact, the mostly used properties which are these ones, that is row and column operation, that any Ri will be same as Ri plus any lambda Rj, where lambda can be an integer or in fact a fraction also. So similarly, the same operation we can do for the column, that any Ci will be Ci plus lambda times Cj. The only thing you have to be careful that this should have coefficient 1. I'll take an example maybe to explain it to you. If I have a, b, c, a square, b square, c square, and 1, 1, 1. Let's say this is the it's determinant. Okay, I'm not writing matrix. I'm not writing matrix. Let me convert a determinant. Okay, let me put a determinant. So if I do this operation, that is like we can, in fact, we can do multiple types of operation over here. So if I do that, C1 is, that is column 1 is C1 minus C3. Similarly, C2 is also C2 minus C3. Then what will happen? This will come out to be as A minus C, A square minus C square, 0. B minus C, B square minus C square, 0. And C, C square, 1. Then I can open up the determinant. So these are the properties, especially this row and column properties are very important. If you practice, it will be really, really good. Sometimes it might not come because the major focus generally in this chapter is to solve linear equation in 3 variables. That is using the matrix method, and we learn basically how to find inverse. So, but this is also important part. As I've told you, the other part of this chapter is basically about understanding the matrix better. That is, to understand that adjoint of A by det, this value is A inverse. So we find out what will be determinant of a matrix a square matrix of numbers. What will be its determinant? We also talk about what singular matrix, non-singular matrix. We also define that det of any number should be non-zero, only then inverse exists. Otherwise, not possible. You also know that a very important is that determinant of adjoint of A is basically determinant of A whole to the power n minus 1. Now, adjoint of A finding, that's a very, very important process. I'm not going to go into depth because for all of you, mostly that will be covered in the school, that how to find, because this is that important. Is that important? You can comment below if you need any information. If you want to make a video on that, we can make it separately. You can just let us know by commenting below on the video. So, or maybe what we will do is, maybe while doing a question, we'll try to understand this process. So that we will be able to get it better. So we'll jump to the question. As I have told you earlier, this chapter is popular for its 5 markers. So again, a 5-mark question. So most of the question that comes, this will always come, always, that solve system of linear equation using the matrices. So in these questions, what need to be done is that, now let's first read the question. The question is that, let's say given a matrix A, which is this, and a matrix B, which is this, I have to find out AB and hence solve this. Now, mostly you will see that A into B will come out to be kind of inverse. That is the reason. Otherwise, there's no other reason to do that. Because otherwise, if they're just too random this thing, that means it's not helping you out in the solution. You do not have a next step. Or they will directly give you A and they'll ask you to find A inverse, because it's kind of more or less same. So, and then we have to solve the system of linear equation. So see, this is the solution guideline by the CBSE itself. Now, if you see, the first is multiplication. So when you multiply, this is coming out to be this value. Now here the steps are missing, that how it came out to be this, but for this you get 2 marks. That doesn't mean that you miss out the steps. You have to write it. Maybe I'll write it quickly. So you can write as that A will be equal to minus 4, 4, 4, minus 7, 1, 3, 5, minus 3, minus 1. Similarly, B will be 1, minus 1, 1, 1, minus 2, minus 2, and 2, 1, 3. Now, once it got it, we can start multiplying it. How will multiply and simplify it? We will write this into this. So you can multiply it and you can write it as minus, you can write as minus 4 plus 4 plus 8. Similarly, what will be the next element? It will be this into this. So that will be 4 minus 8 plus 4. Shift will be on the other side and it will be. Similarly, if you talk about the next one, we have to multiply this with this. So it will come out to be as 4 minus 4 minus 8 plus 12. And similarly, if I do that, so you'll see that this will come out to be in this form. So this is the first step. So it is coming out to be 8i. That means b is not the inverse of it, because otherwise it should be I. It is coming as 8i. It is coming at 8i. So over here, what we could have done also is that we can say b is basically 8 times, or if we have to talk about inverse, if I multiply with inverse, if we multiply with inverse, if I put A inverse and A inverse over here, so I'll get 8 times A inverse will be equal to B. Now, the next part of these kind of questions generally form the linear equations, like basically to form or to represent these equations in terms of matrices. So how would I do that? Now, this is standard. Okay, maybe I'll talk about this part. So what we can do is I'll write it over here, this. So we always make a matrix of a column matrix of variables, that is x, y, z. Over here, we will put all the coefficients, that is, we are getting 1, minus 1, 1, that is the coefficient of x, y, z. Then I have 1, minus 2, and then we have got 2, 1, 3. So basically, we are putting the coefficients of x, y, z accordingly, nothing else. And this multiplication should be equal to the constants. That's how we first form the equations. Now, once we have formed the equation, we'll notice that this is exactly similar to coming out to b. So effectively, this is bx equal to 6. So use these things, otherwise they will not give it. So bx equal to this. So bx is the variable thing and c is this thing which is formed by the constants. So what will be x? We are taking inverse on both the sides. So x by default will be b inverse c. Now, why? We know what will be b inverse. If 8 times a inverse is b, we can say it other way around as well. We can say that well, basically over here we'll use ab equal to 8i. So b inverse will be 1 by 8a. So 1 by 8 times a will be, this value is b inverse. So x will be b inverse c. So we'll just put the value of b inverse. Okay. So what we will do over here is that we'll put the value of b inverse as a by 8. This 8 will go away, will multiply. After this just multiplication, once you get multiplication, this value is x, this is y, this is z. The standard question, if you have already written essay exams in your school, you have already come across this thing. So it's a 5 marks. The OR question also you'll see is exactly same. Here A is given, find A inverse. And you will see that if you notice, this A is nothing but the coefficients of these things. Okay, the minus missing over here, maybe a printing mistake over here. Okay. Anyhow, so we can see. Okay, maybe A inverse will come out to be that one rather than this indirectly. So first A is given, find out A inverse. So A is given, find out adjoint of it. So adjoint is nothing but transpose of the minors. So maybe I'll just do this one quickly because we've talked about it earlier. So how to find it out? So how do you find out? If you have the matrix A, so you can see the marks also, but this will give you 1.5 marks. And in the previous question, getting this thing was 2 marks. Then writing this equation is half marks because effectively you do not do anything, it's just copy paste. Getting this is 1 and final answer is 1.5. In these cases, what will happen is you can start out like this, that what is A inverse? A inverse will be adjoint of A by det. Now, if you can find out the det first, and what is A is given? A is given as okay, this is given as A 1 2 0. So I'll write over here. A is given as 1 2 0 minus 1 minus 2 minus 1 minus 2 minus 2 minus 1 minus 2 and 0 minus 1 1 0 minus 1. So if we take that, we'll try to open it along the first row because we have one of the 0. If you open it, you'll see that 1 will go as minus 1 and then minus of minus. So this will become minus again. So minus 1 minus 2, that is minus 1. So it will come out to be as minus 1. Then twice of this into this because we hide the row and column. So minus 2 times of minus 2, minus 2 times of minus 2 will come out to be as plus 4 and 0 will remain 0. So when you simplify for this thing, so you will see that the det of A will come out to be as 3. Next is adjoint. So adjoint we find by basically adjoint comes from basically finding out the cofactors and taking the transpose. Now cofactors means we will hide, let's say I want to find a cofactor for this element. I'll hide the row and column. I'll get it as minus 1. Okay, minus 1 minus 2, yes. Minus 1 minus 2. This will be minus 1. So now that we got it as minus 1, so its cofactor will be minus 1. Its cofactor will come out to be as minus 1. So you'll write it as minus 1 over here. So like this, you will keep on finding out the cofactors and then simplify it. So again, as I told you, this is very important. So this is from the last year. Okay, I think we have some 1 marker question as well. So move on to the 1 marker question. So this is the 1 marker question. The question is A is given. I have to find out A inverse. Now this question could have been done directly straightforward. Why? Because we know that for identity matrix, inverse is the same identity matrix, right? The only difference compared to identity matrix is I have a minus 1 extra over here. So if I multiply minus with minus, it will become plus. So by default, I can say that it have to be of this form. If have to be of this form. It's 1 mark. Or if you are unsure about it, you can always check the cofactors. Just hide this row and column. You do 1 into 1. So its minor is 1, but cofactor when you multiply, you'll get it in accordingly. All right. Again, we have a 1 mark question from the determinant. So over here is given that if A is a square matrix of order 2 and det of A is this. So we have already talked about this. We know that det of adjoint of A will be det of A power n minus 1, where n is the order of it. Where n is the order of the matrix. So it's given that if det of A, this value is 4. Now we have to find out det of 4 adjoint of A. So basically, what will happen, because this is a matrix. This is a matrix. Adjoint of A is a matrix. That's not a determinant. So in a matrix, what happens when you multiply with a scalar, you multiply every element. So for example, if I have A, B, C, D, let's say this is A, then what's 4A? 4A will be 4A, 4B, 4C, 4D. So if I take its det, it will not be 4, it will become in fact 16 because I get this extra factor of 4. 4 into 4. Let's say it will be 16 times det of A. So I have to use the same thing over here. Once we use that, but because adjoint of A will have the same det as it. But because of this 4, it will become 16 times. 16 into 4 will make it 64. So in this, we'll get 16 into 4, that will make it 64. Now, if we move ahead, we'll see that, see, now it's not like in the same paper, there were 2 5-mark questions. So as I've told you, there will be only 1 5-mark question that will be coming out from the determinant. But what is the thing is that because we have taken different sets. So we have in fact taken 2 sets for the determinant. So in these 2 sets, we got 2 set of 5-marker question. So you will see that even the second 5 marker question is again follow the same thing. It will be always following a system of linear equation where we are solving a system of linear equation. So what we will do over here is that again we will, if you look at the question is the school wants to allocate a student into 3 clubs: sports, music, and drama. Now this question is more like a word problem where we have to convert these into equations rather than the equations given in the previous 5 marker question. So it's given that the number of students in the sport club should be equal to sum of the numbers of the students in music and drama club. That means we have to form an equation. So the first equation will be x equal to y plus z. Now this is a solution given, but forming this equation itself allowed you some marks. Second is the number of students in music club should be 20 more than half of the number of students in sports club. So y equal to x by 2 plus 20, second equation. The total number of students allocated in all 3 clubs are 120. So x plus y plus z is 180. That is the third equation. So we will have these 3 equations. Now that we've got this 3 equation, we'll do the similar process back again. We have, in fact, it is same as the previous question. If I write it in a column means if I write it as x minus y minus z equal to 0, if I write x minus 2y equal to minus 40, and if I write x plus y plus z, this will be 180. So you will see that it is basically the previous 5 marker question. Rest again will do the same thing. So A is formed by the coefficients of these equations. B is this value and X is the matrix formed by this. Then again we'll find out the inverse by using the determinant method. That is, we'll find adjoint of A divided by det of A, we'll get this thing, multiply and get the answer. So in determinant, my suggestion is do only 2 things: to work on the properties and this thing. In fact, if you are good in this thing, believe me, you are getting pakka 5 marks and maybe more. So this is something which is super important. Ensure that all of you do that because this comes repetitively. So this is all in the determinant. If you have any further query, you can comment below. And soon we'll be coming up with the next chapter. So that's all for now. I'll see you guys later and all the best for you.